This is the Dollemore Daily, and I'm Jesse Dollemore.
I get a lot of voicemails and emails from haters. I get my fair share of death threats. But typically, it's the defenders of the Confederacy that I see the most hatred from. Just the other day, maybe I'll do a separate video on this guy who called me and was just really offended that I would call Robert E. Lee a traitor, and that the Confederate generals and the soldiers who fought in the Confederacy were cowards, I believe. Traitors to their country. Unabashedly, I will say that. Dirty, filthy, un-American cowards and traitors were the Confederacy. And there's this refrain when we talk about whether it be reparations for descendants of slaves in this country of, slavery was all this time ago. Who cares? Get over it. A lot of that talk, probably in a very similar voice to that. So when I came across this story, I had to talk about it because these same people that are slavery was 100 years ago, get over it, are the same ones donning costumes and having a funeral for Ambrose Powell Hill, otherwise known as A.P. Hill, a Confederate traitor general. And they're all in their costumes and they're having an actual funeral because his remains got moved from one place to another. So all of these anti-democratic, un-American ghouls get together and they celebrate the life of a fellow scumbag traitor. Reading from the Telegraph, Confederate general's remains moved to Virginia hometown. And really, I just can't get over the solemnity that they show up with their dour outfits. They're black. They're in mourning of this traitor to America, while living under the auspices of the freedom they claim to love and cherish and enjoy under the Constitution that these same assholes like A.P. Hill tried to do away with. All in an effort to maintain slavery, to maintain the ability to own another human being as property. Could there be something more vile than that? And they fought a war over it to maintain slavery. The remains of a Confederate general unearthed from beneath a monument at the center of a Virginia intersection have been reinterred at a cemetery in his hometown. Last month, Richmond, which served as the Confederacy's capital for most of the Civil War, removed the statue of Confederate General A.P. Hill, his name is Ambrose Powell Hill, and the general's remains buried beneath after a court battle. On Saturday, hundreds of people, including Confederate reenactors, gathered to pay their respects to the general at a ceremony in Fairview Cemetery in Culpeper Hill's hometown. That's Culpeper, Virginia. The Freelance Star reported. The Freelance Star is a paper in Fredericksburg, Virginia, just a few miles away. The coffin, draped in an old Virginia flag, was brought into the cemetery on a mule-drawn wagon, followed by a riderless horse. After a eulogy, song, and prayers, there was a 21-gun salute and 3 rounds were fired from a cannon. These are military honors. They are honoring this man. They are saying prayers for a man who dedicated his life and didn't die in the Civil War. He died after the Civil War. But he dedicated his life, at least the end of it, to the prospect of continuing slave ownership. And these idiots gathered with their costumes on and wanted to honor him like he's a hero. He was a coward, a vile traitor to the United States of America, and they honor him. A little background here. Richmond removed other Confederate monuments amid the racial justice protests that followed George Floyd's killing in 2020. But efforts to remove the Hill statue, which sat in the middle of a busy intersection, were more complicated because the general's remains were interred beneath it 25 years after his death at the end of the Civil War. Now, listen, there's all kinds of monuments all over the South, all over the country for that matter, that weren't put up right after the Civil War. They were put up in like the 1920s during Jim Crow to remind Black Americans what their place was, to engender fear and intimidation of the Black communities all across the country. That's what A.P. Hill was a U.S. Army base up until recently. We were naming our American United States military bases after these cowards, after these traitors. And you still have a massive swath of population, especially here in the South, especially to my south, right in Virginia, who love and admire these traitors, who get all squishy about the prospect of the heroism of General Ambrose Powell Hill. What do you think? I'm sure I'll get pushback. There's still Democrats out there. There's still people who consider themselves liberal who will defend this nonsense, who will defend the Confederacy. I don't understand it. If you got a line you think can convince me, 714-576-4054. You can also email me. You can direct your hate at daily@dollemore.com. If you are not one of those people and you'd like to help support my work, click the join button below. Become a channel member for $1.99 a month, or you can go over to patreon.com/IDoubtIt podcast. I am steadily, quickly losing my voice. Follow me on social media. I am at Dollemore on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'd love to see you there. And I'll see you next time. I appreciate you guys so much. Be genuine. Take care of one another.